All right. Good morning. Great to be back, and great to be back at camp in Western New York, in the Rochester area, in the town of Pittsford here. Want to thank everyone first and foremost for coming, but also thank specifically the people who had a large hand in helping us move here. It doesn't just happen by itself. So all the Bills staff, all the staff at St. John Fisher that helped us get settled in here, specifically the St. John's Fisher staff for their hospitality. I understand that we kind of take over campus a little bit here, and it's very much appreciated that the way that they handle us and welcome us. And then again, the people of Pittsford, our fans in this area and the towns neighboring Pittsford, and their welcome nature. Just went to a little visit to Pittsford Dairy last night just to make sure it was still there, and not going to tell you how much I had or what I indulged in, but it was really good and a good way to start camp. So had an opportunity to take my son over there last night and just make sure it was still there. So I did that for everyone else's sake, just so you know. But it's great to be here. We believe in going away to camp. We've talked about that before, namely because of a couple of reasons, one of which is for our team to continue to come together and bond and develop that chemistry that we're going to need, and then not only get ourselves into football shape, but also build that key element of toughness that we need. It's hard to reinvent that, if you will, in October if you're not winning the line of scrimmage, and so we've got to get that done here and help that carry us forward into the season as we go through. So I'm a big believer in that toughness element to our football team, and you'll see that out at practice as we move forward here and get into full pads. So with that, I'll turn it over to you and your questions.
Sean, can you update us on physical things that are happening, injury stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see everyone out there at practice today, Sal, and they'll be out there in full capacity, I would say. As we go through camp, some guys will be managed, Milano being one of them, and just to name one of them, but there'll be some guys that get vet days as we go, but we'll just take it one day at a time right now.
Sean, how does camp change, if at all, with so many new faces this year?
That's kind of life in the NFL, right? It's a new year every season, and it's a new team every year. So you go back to starting from square one, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there's many steps between where we are now and where we're trying to get to as a football team and as an organization. This is a critical first step, coming to camp and really winning this first step at camp and accomplishing the goals that we want to accomplish. There's going to be some tweaks here and there with because of some of the youth on our roster and some new faces, as you mentioned. But overall, we believe in what we believe in and the core of what we do.
Hey, Sean, what do you want to see out of Josh Allen this camp, verbally, but know that he's in sync with all the new pieces on offense?
I know Josh has put in a lot of time with those new pieces over the offseason. Been very intentional about that. I think he's done a great job of taking ownership with that. And really it's trying to expose those guys to get on the same page as much as we can, and then their understanding of what they're going against from a defensive standpoint. So that is a big intention of ours at camp in the periods that we'll run and how we'll run and shape things as we go through camp.
I know there's turnover every year, roster turnover. This time though, the amount of turnover you've had with staff and players, does it remind you maybe take it back to 2018 in some ways?
Possibly. I think overall it's always, in the way I'm looking at it this year, it's a little bit different than 2018. It's an opportunity, and you look forward to those opportunities, right? To bring a team along and put a team together. Certain players that work for us may not work for other teams. Certain players that work for them may not work for us. And I think one of the cool things about the position that I'm in, the position we're in as coaches, position Brandon's in, and his staff as well, is that we get a chance to put together a team. And that's not always just, hey, we're going to take the most talented guys across the board. I don't believe that's how you put a team together. Talent is important, but what's just as important, once we know that the talent is there, is how it all fits together, and the rapport offensively that was mentioned with Josh, and how it all fits together in all three phases. So I think that's part of what's exciting about this season, is seeing how that all comes together.
What have you seen from Keon Coleman and his approach as you now head into training camp, his first?
Again, I just saw him the last, I guess, half a day here. He got, what I know so far is he's here on time, he's ready to go, and he looks like he's ready to attack this first practice. So I'll know a little bit more after I get out of this first practice here.
I meant more what you saw from him in the spring.
In the spring?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he was a rookie, still is a rookie. That's not going to change. So he'll face the normal rookie challenges specific to his position. As spring went on, I saw him start to get more and more comfortable. I saw Josh spending more and more time with him, being intentional about that and building that rapport and chemistry. And then I saw him really starting to win some of those one-on-ones that happen from time to time at his position.
Sean, Kaiir Elam seemed to have a strong spring. How does he carry that over? What's the mindset? You're talking with him so he can carry that over into training camp as he fights for a spot.
Yeah, I mean, belief is important, right? Belief and confidence are a big part of performing, especially at this level, but not just this level, at many levels, youth levels included. So, it's a clean slate for Kaiir, and we're looking forward to, in year 3, what he's able to do. And again, I think our environment usually helps players with that, right? In that belief and confidence, and we have to continue to instill that as coaches in him, and then he'll do the rest. And so he'll be out there at times running with the first group, at times with the second group, and we'll mix it and give him opportunities to really develop here.
Hey, Sean, when you guys start practicing the pads, what kind of tempo do you want to practice kickoffs at?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially with obviously the rule change. There's going to be times where we're going to need to go full speed. We're going to throw a lot into that. We did in the spring as much as we could, albeit in helmets only. So we're going to have to do as much kind of exploration as we can through practice, and then maybe throw some live in there as well.
How well did the guys sort of grasp things during the spring in terms of the rules initially?
Yeah, I mean, they were very attentive, and I would say not just the kickoff or the kickoff return team, but I would say the entire team grasping how that's going to change the game, or how that could change the game, I should say. So I think that's going to play a big part. The way it is right now, the way the rule reads right now, and will play out, I think is going to play a big part in determining games.
Sean, have you made a decision on play calling on defense yet?
No. You'll see at practice. It's going to be a mix. Bobby will certainly have his fair share. I'll call it some, but getting that piece worked out, and I have a pretty good feel in my head for where I'm going with it. It's just not really to want to publicize that right now, but I do believe, whether it's Bobby, Joe, Smiley, that getting those, that's knocking the rust off for any coordinator, any play caller in camp, and we got to make sure we do that as well, just from some what we call call it periods. So,
Sean, from what you saw from Cole Bishop in the spring, a couple of veterans in that room, you brought back Taylor Rapp. What does he have to do to kind of really enter that position battle throughout training camp?
Cole, you're free. Yeah. No, I mean, he's got to come out and get off to a good start. I mean, we mentioned when we left to the whole team of being in the best shape that you've ever been in, because that's really the start. If you don't come to camp in shape, things happen, you're not available, and then you can't do anything, right? So staying available is important, and then we'll see what type of, at least initial shape we're in. We had the conditioning test yesterday, but we'll see what type of real shape we're in a little bit today. That'll get tested, but then as we move through camp. And so I think really mastering the defense, which is hard to do in the first season. We're mastering, Matt, parts of it to where he can help us maybe in certain packages, starting there and then moving into the starting roles division.
What do you need to see from Von Miller? What do you hope and need to see from Von?
Well, I'm excited for Von. You know, that coming off of an ACL, as long as I've been around this game, is not easy. I don't care who you are. And there's been some variation, some guys coming back faster than others. But usually it's in that second season where the athlete's able to recapture their form. And that's going to be a challenge, but that's what Von's here to do. I know he's worked hard in the offseason, and that'll be a big piece for us as we move forward up front.
Sean, you talked about Josh being intentional with the new wide receivers.
Yeah.
How have you seen him maybe step up more vocally as a team leader? Deion talked about that he hears him barking more during the offseason. Have you noticed Josh being more vocal this time around?
Yeah, I haven't noticed the barking piece. But yeah, Deion's great, right? Yeah, so Josh, overall, you talking like from a leadership standpoint? Yeah, I mean, I've noticed a ratcheted up form of Josh, and from a leadership standpoint, again, just being intentional about, and I say that going back to the spring, and I look forward to that continuing to ratchet up here. But going back to the spring, just being intentional about working with his core receivers, backs, tight ends, and hey, if something's not right, you know, being proactive and saying, hey, listen, let's run that again, or I need to see that again, and we'll go do it during special teams period. He's coming over here with a guy or two, and I think that's a big piece of really getting our level of execution up to where it needs to be and as consistent as it needs to be.
I think that safety is arguably the toughest position mentally to step into as a rookie, day one.
Other than quarterback? Yeah, I would say quarterback, middle linebacker, and safety. Probably, being indifferent of schemes or systems, I would say largely those are the main three that carry the most volume, the most responsibility.
Sean, you mentioned getting back to square one to start camp. Was that almost more difficult to do over the past few camps because you didn't have as much turnover?
The intention is to always start at square one, Joe, right? I think it's harder, and even talking with some of the veterans who are still here, and then some who at the end of the season went to other teams or are not playing right now. I think just speaking with them, it's harder for them mentally to really get back to square one and start over. And so there's an awareness piece with that I took out of that, at least, those conversations. But I think that part is necessary, and you have to almost force yourself to do it, even if and when you've been around a system a little bit or an environment.
Sean, based off of what you said about Bishop and how tough it is to wear at safety, how important is Mike Edwards in getting him kind of fit in here and figuring things out on the speed?
Yeah, and he had the injury in spring, so he missed a lot of time there. So that's huge, Josh, for him getting up to speed, the intricacies of our defense. The intention was to have Mike out there with the first group through the spring, the duration of it, but he missed really most of the spring, if not all of it. So again, that'll be a chance for us this morning to look at Mike and see how he's doing.
On the topic of defensive backs, how important will it be to draw on Bobby's experience having worked with the defensive backs in this time here, especially early in camp when you're still trying to figure things out in the second year?
Yeah, and that's part of it's awesome, the fans, right? That's part of to me, the key ingredient of being a good coordinator is you've worked with the defensive backfield, as you mentioned, and then Bobby's also worked with the linebacking core as well. So having in-depth knowledge of the back seven, and then that connection that the linebackers have to the front, being exposed to both of those positions bodes well for Bobby as a coordinator, because not only can he call plays better because of that, but also connect with his staff, in particular the defensive line coaches, knowing, hey, I know enough about the front, how it works together, to have credibility, so to speak.
Hey, Sean, when you look at the receiver depth chart, top to bottom, is this maybe the most diverse or eclectic group of guys you've had here? Because, there's so many different skill sets there.
There are, and it's kind of like you open the drawer to your silverware at home, and you're like, okay, tell me what this does, right? And sometimes I open the drawer at my home, and I'm like, I try and put the dishes back, and I'm like, I don't even know where this goes, right? I think we can all relate, or some of us at least. So, yeah. So anyway, it's.
Outside of silverware, what do you think of
Yeah. No, that's how I see it, honestly, is we don't really know what we have, but we know what we have. And it's interesting to see they're a very diverse group. I know a lot of people talk about we don't have a true number one and this and that. I think these guys will rise to the occasion. I really do.
Sean, you talk a lot about the jump from year 1 to year 2 for these guys. Is there anything from Dalton specifically you want to see in camp?
I mean, Dalton's been so good in so many ways. Right away, he's just a great person with a great disposition, and secondly, his connection with Josh, his understanding of our offense, his understanding of NFL defenses. He's just he's gotten off to such a great start, and I know the way he handled in this offseason and the spring, and he didn't stop. I mean, just in terms of his hunger to grow and get better, and that's hard to find, right? Especially when you come off of a year like you had in year 1, and now it's, hey, let's do our best to reset it and start again from step 1, and looking forward to him really continuing to excel.
Going back to 2018, how much have you, in that sense, grown and can draw from 2018, having had that experience and the experiences of the past 6 years?
Yeah, I think overall, just there's no substitution for experience, right? No substitute for experience in whatever you do, and I think if you're wired the right way, you're always learning, always growing, and then you're using something I learned this morning or something I learned in 2018, 2023, whatever it is to make myself better, to make our team better, and I think our players are wired the same way.
Sean, you watched, obviously you know a lot of those folks, Hard Knocks Offseason, and what would you think about opening up the doors at One Village Drive and giving that kind of access for the world to see kind of the inner workings of everything?
Yeah, I think it's great for the fans. I really do. I was flicking through some channels the other night when I was just kind of sitting in my living room waiting to go to camp, like the first day of school, and Hard Knocks was on. Now, it wasn't the most current version, but I think those are great inside looks for the fans at what goes on around NFL camps, inside the walls, inside the doors, and so if I were a fan, I'd appreciate those moments as well. Good? All right, guys, thank you.